Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming down to our unconference. The topic for today is the power and the possibilities of Polymath. So we're happy to be here. Joining me is my good friend, a Polymath Scholar, Michael Araki. He's now based in Brazil. And also, I'm really happy to have my intern, Shao Xuan, which right now is on the Ungoogleable challenge with me, which is part of the Polymathic program, to share his experience later. All right, now to kick off, what I'll do is I'll ask Michael, perhaps you can lead the beginning to talk about some background on Polymath.
Perfect. Okay, so can you hear me well? So thank you, Mark, for the opportunity. Thank you all for participating. Let me share the screen here. Okay. All right, I hope you can see my screen, right? Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, because I didn't have any feedback, so let me go. Sorry. So the topic today is polymathy, a needed but misunderstood concept. And first, I'm going to start with the role of polymathy in today's world. And to start, we have on the one hand the idea that polymathy, or the capacity to gather wide-ranging knowledge, is very important for several reasons, especially because we live in such a fragmented world with different departments that never talk to each other in organizations, and the polymathic people can make bridges. So on the one hand, we have very strong view to use polymathy to help people and organizations. But on the other hand, are organizations prepared to deal with polymathic people? So we have this sentence here from an educator that said that Leonardo da Vinci would never be successful in a traditional organization, even one like IBM, or neither our universities, because the organizations are designed in a way that they do not tolerate this kind of thinking. So how can we do that? How can we proceed with this thing and reconcile? So the first problem, or the first thing that I would like to share, is how polymathy is embedded with so much philosophy, which is something that not so many people talk about. And then I start with the concept of islands of meaning. What does that mean? When we wake up into the world, we are thrown into this reality. Nothing makes sense. It's all noise. And to make sense of things, we start to go into small domains like mathematics, like music, or dance, or chemistry, or sports. And when we delve into those domains, things starting making sense, like now I understand an equation, now I understand how to compose, or how to dance a Tchaikovsky song. But when you start delving into something, what do you do in the other parts of the world? So how much noise will you still withstand in the world? And this problem about living in a noisy, complicated VUCA, we say today, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So how can we make sense of that? And this has been a problem that philosophers have also tackled. And one famous philosopher, Albert Camus, which is known by saying that the world is ultimately an absurd, he said, all right, even if it's an absurd, what can we do? So even in this crazy world, our effort as a living being would be to examine, to enlarge, and to enrich this ephemeral island in which we have just landed. But first, to do that, to have this liberty of enlarging, enriching the world, we first must know, must get knowledge. And this is not something that only he came with. Philosophers, also educators like Humboldt, said that the ultimate task of our existence is to achieve as much substance, is to delve in things with purpose, to get more and more for our concept of humanity as a person from and throughout our lifetime, and linking what we are, the self, to the world. So to enrich and enlarge in his words. So polymathy is not only about multiple expertise. It's not about being the Leonardo da Vinci of the 21st century. It's about your experience with the world. It has a deep philosophical meaning. All right? But, or above that, one thing that's very important to talk about is the psychoeconomics of polymathy. Psycho means, or psychological means, your motivation plus your emotion and plus your cognitive. And economics means the benefits and costs. You're always making calculations about the benefits and costs of things. And as I said, when you delve into a domain, there is no free lunch. You have to invest. You have to invest your time. You have to invest, more important than your time, your interest, your attention. So when you do something, even if you like it drains a little bit of your time, of course, of your attention. Then you have to rest. Every time you pass through a challenge, even if it's your favorite domain, you get a little, whoa, I really invest in that. Okay, so there is no real free lunch in that. So how can a polymath exist in a world like that? Okay, on top of that, we have an even worse problem. One thing is to acquire knowledge. Today I can go to Wikipedia and learn about chemistry, for example. But with my background in business, would I be able to join the chemistry field? Would other chemists allow me to participate in the conversation? And the answer generally is no. So we don't have only a problem of knowledge, we have a problem of the gatekeepers, the frontiers between the domains being so fiercely defended by those people. Why? Because different from the polymaths, they can only find meaning and they can only be, let's say, valuable within that domain. So they protect it like a lion protects his pride. So this is my domain. You can't invade. So we have two problems when we want to become a polymath in this world. However, there are clear advantages of becoming a polymath, of managing to being, how can I say, an investor in multiple domains. And then I make this distinction between how we are trained classically. We are trained to be specialists, and the average specialist is like the single star in the middle of the stars that habitate one field. So it's a very little space within a very vast universe. That's what the world traditionally wants us to do. But when we study field leaders, they are a little bit different. They tend to be broader, even though they still are generally restricted to one domain. But when you study the most creative people, Nobel Prizes, you see that not only they have deep knowledge within their field of a main professional field, but they also bring knowledge. They draw upon things from different domains, or they bring different perspectives. And research has found that very eminent creators are 22 to 20 times more likely to have serious avocations, so serious interests in areas that have nothing to do with their main, under quotes, domain. And it makes them very different, very likely to come with really novel ideas. And with that, I made a model in an article 2018 in the Journal of Genius and Eminence, which tries to separate or better, to predict the path to make polymathic people and polymathic contributions at the organizational level and at the social level. All right, so I talked how polymathy, in one hand, is seen as an exit, as a possibility to this crazy VUCA world, and how organizations are so behind, most organizations, in dealing with polymathy. And I showed how the circumstances and how the psychoeconomics of our life can shape polymathy. But let's be very precise what polymathy is. So, in my studies, I came to the conclusion that polymathy is based on three major components. First, breadth. Second, depth. And third, integration. If you lack any one of these three, you cannot be a polymath. And I'm going to explain why. All right? The full definition is the following. Polymathy refers to a lifelong relationship with knowledge, learning, and creating that entails a significant development of three elements: breadth, depth, and integration. So let's check each of the three. So breadth first refers to wide-ranging knowledge and learning and covering different and often disparate, different domains, at least from an observer from afar. Depth is attaining a significantly profound understanding of something, whether technical, all right, I know how to use a PPT or Excel, whatever, whether epistemic, I know the principles of mathematics, whether empirical, I have experience in marketing, in sales that make me a very successful, effective, or proficient salesperson. Okay, so it's not only abstract knowledge, all right? And integration is the one that brings everything together. It involves weaving synergistic or integrative networks of enterprise and the generation of creative products through fundamental connections that go beyond the separation between domains. Let me be even more clear. When we have these three elements, we can then separate what is polymathy and what polymathy is not. So we have the dilettante, which is the person who has breadth but lacks depth, or is the person like who goes into several fields and tries this, tries that, but never goes for mastery. Mastery is important. It relates to depth. The specialist, of course, is not a polymath because he lacks the breadth. So it's a person with a narrow expertise. But we also have the encyclopedist or the erudite, the people that just consume knowledge. They are like the encyclopedia. Everything is there, but what what for? So what? What can you do with that? So when you don't have integration, you have this kind of person that only consumes knowledge but cannot produce something meaningful, something that is an innovation with this knowledge. All right. So if you lack any of these three, you are failing in one of the elements of polymathy. And finally, I bring my new furnace model of knowledge creation to make a metaphor, which I think is going to illuminate the topic and tie with the importance of polymathy. So, in this metaphor, how you can act in the world to build knowledge is based on your furnace, all right? But your furnace is needs some kind of material, which is the knowledge that is being prepared, that exists in the domain. And this knowledge is very systematized. You draw upon knowledge from articles, from, for example, journals like The Lancet, if you are in medicine, or Academy of Management, if you are in business, etc. But they have a format, they have a way to be conveyed, and it makes easier for you to consume this knowledge. But when we are inventing, we are not inventing this kind of very strict, formatted, branded knowledge. We are building, in fact, very or more fluid nuggets of ideas, of knowledge, which have um ill built structure. They are not really finally complete. That's the main interaction that we have in our minds. When you have an idea, or better, an inspiration, it doesn't come fully formed. It comes as an insight, as a feeling, as a sensation. We should go into this direction. And then you make nuggets of understanding, nuggets of knowledge, sometimes even to talk to yourself. Only you can understand the nuggets that you are making. All right, but it's not, it doesn't make knowledge into the real outside world. When you want to make knowledge for the real world, you have to use a common language, right? If you're a musician, you have to write your score, you have to record your music. If you're a poet, you have to write words in a very bounded manner. So I call this provisional items of knowledge booleans. So they are more or less in the shape, but they haven't gone through the accreditation process. So it's like your first draft, not necessarily the first, but the draft of an article if you're in academia. And then after the article goes through different furnaces of your reviewers, it becomes a more refined or validated, an accredited product, and becomes an ingot. And here I have a stack of ingots, and it's not by chance. It's to show that we have a stock of knowledge which we can draw upon, and this knowledge uh, comes from different domains, of course, but in different shapes. But the most useful and the most, how can I say, perceived valuable as valuable knowledge are in this very constrained forms. So articles or even a podcast, those things that are in a file format. So this is my metaphor for how the creativity works. And polymathic people, what they can do, they can bring and blend different metals. They make different modes. They change, they experiment. Their nuggets are crazy, are rainbows. Of course, they suffer a little bit because their bullions tend to be a little bit different from the branded ingots that we see. But when we have gatekeepers that understand the value of these different bullions, you have a more diverse, a richer final ingot that will bring much more value to this stack here, because that's going to be something new, something sometimes surprising and valuable, different from the things we had in the past. So that's not only a model of knowledge, but a model of creativity and evolution of our culture, of our understanding. So that's the message I would like to talk about. And I have just one thing that I would like to stress when I would talk about knowledge. So it's a lot of different types of knowledge, not only epistemic knowledge. Sometimes we have this technical knowledge. Sometimes we have this knowledge that is only for the domain. But what polymaths excel is in those metacognitive skills, which are skills that serve for multiple domains. And we go back to that figure of the creative polymath with his or her different and colorful star in comparison to the average specialist and the field leader. Okay, I have the full model here just for you to know that I have a model not only as a metaphor, but as something, as an ingot that can be distributed. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. All right. What I'm going to do next is just share from my side I've done for my company, and maybe some stories on how I transform my company based on polymathic. Let me see. Okay, great. Okay, for those who join us, thank you for joining us. So first, that's very quickly. So this is from I got it from Singularity University. So it's about the world going exponential and a human got a little problem. They tend to only can predict in a linear manner. So I wanted to find how other ways can we get there, get over here. So I really like this exponential thinking, adaptability, and mindset, etc. So that was things I was asking myself, how do I get there? And the second is the next observation where there's like convergence of all the discipline. Right now with all this transformation ongoing, it's really difficult to get a lot of specialists coming together on the transformation project. And our answer that to deal with this world is really about man-machine partnership. So now the machines nowadays are really quite advanced. And in my opinion, sometimes human is the liability, is the problem right now. The machine can make it simple enough for the human to operate upon. So I need to really look for a suitable human model to work in alongside with the machines. And for back then, about 4 years ago, I chose the pathway of the polymathy, that we can actually let robots do the stuff that's not fun, and then the human do the fun stuff. Okay, so what's the results? So before 2016, Design Project was already about 10 years old, and we have we have certain local company, large enterprise based in Singapore. But once we transform in just mere 1 year, we get 5 MNC and large. All these are MNC accounts, which is Asia Pacific accounts, within 1 year, because we start to able to do things that other agencies could not. But in 1 more year later, that means 2 years of transformation, we actually beat 4 global agencies to win a deal, Asia Pacific deal from SAP. It was a significant win. It is a win where we are clearly the David's local agency, and we beat all these global agencies who bring all the experts to want to win this massive contract. And it was really difficult and challenging, and we won it, right? So what happened? So what happens here was SAP was really, they wanted something really ambitious, really cutting edge, and to do that, because it's like, for example, in advertising technology, there's a lot of development to be cutting edge. And in marketing technology, there's a lot of development to be cutting edge. The project require someone who is really well-versed in both advertising technology and marketing technology. And plus, we realized to solve it, you need machine learning, you need propensity modeling on top of all those. So you need someone who have well-versed in all three at the same time to come a solution that makes sense quickly. And we happen to be the team to able to do it, and we won the deal, and we executed it, right? So the rest is easy. Doing is easy, thinking is difficult. That's what we discovered from there. So that was a big, huge validation on the polymathic approach. With a very small team, and one person could have 3 skills, and we're going in to win this deal, and we complete the project. Okay, this is one story. The other one is it's more fun. We tried, like for example, for those with LinkedIn account, it's actually quite hard to get good engagement on your LinkedIn, right? So what we did is we got a team to study this super influencers. Okay, we studied this Korean band called BTS. It's an incredible team, incredible band. The phenomena is that they were able to be very popular in a lot of countries, even though they don't speak Korean. All right. So we asked the question: is it possible for a corporate environment, for let's say this field marketers? There's a role called the field marketers. Can we possibly convert them into like a super influencer by studying the BTS band and deriving some kind of a BTS formula? And so I just is quite inspired by the Captain America. You got this serum that injected it, and it just transformed to a super soldier, right? So this was just a question: is it possible to connect these two worlds? And the result came out was quite pretty stunning. You can see here, that's what the test we did. We just applied the formula, and you can see that you can see increase in organic traffic, right? Or at a profile for up to 400%. So it started with me first. It rose. Well, that was quite good, right? Then my colleague Cheng Wei, I think the traffic grew. So what they did is they did the same test with the interns who has really little presence, and before that, it also rise significant. I mean, there is a very significant rise. So the formula works even for newbies, and the formula is still working today. All right, so that was interesting, and then we actually shared this knowledge for free to our clients, and up to like 3 days ago, somebody also told me that it works for him. So that was interesting. I like that. And the thing is about which the team that study BTS are actually interns. So what we have is we run this Ungoogleable challenge internship, and we get interns of background that's nothing to do with marketing. From anywhere else, we try to select them on select them based on polymathic threads. We put them through a program and try to activate them. All right, and then what we do is to give them really challenging and meaningful tasks you can't Google your way up to answer it. So they really got to go through the process of diving deep, and then try to integrate to come up with new ways to work and validate it, to test it and get the data to produce it. So this is what it is. So next is I just want to share my thinking on this Go challenge. When we transformed 4 years ago, it was actually very scary. We couldn't find any reference in the world of a company who have gone through this path. So, and we are not a huge agency. We're always about average about 10%. So we do not have enough data points to really practice. So what I did was I converted our internship program to be like a laboratory for polymathy. And then we got a lot. So these are literally our lab rats. So we told them that we are experimenting, and we're going to do something really crazy. And they came in and we started to study what works, what did not work. All right. And with me today, I have Seah Shao Xuan, who is the current batch, who is solving some very difficult stuff. I will get him to share later, and we can have a chit chat over that of his experience. So what happens? I just want to finish up on this Ungoogleable challenge. It's very interesting. Is that so we got interns to do literally like this experimental stuff to solve like BTS and all this. What we realize is that the industry leaders like this, marketing leaders, even Fortune 500 or a lot, they're actually interested in their project. So now the Ungoogleable challenge right now actually do a final presentation to industry leaders, to get industry leaders to validate their hypothesis and to give critique on their project. And from the journey, we started to notice that we get more and more industry leaders coming on, and the industry leaders are bringing the team on to follow this program. And in fact, they're even leaning forward to help engage the interns, our interns, early, so that they are more primed to solve difficult stuff. And they are also giving them more ground issues that's really difficult to solve, so that when the interns are on the journey of the solving within 6 to 12 weeks, they could consider them, and then they can have a discussion at the end of their internship. So this is, to me, is very inspiring, and I would think it's a growing community. So I'm just happy to share with that. And with this, I have maybe it's time to bring on Seah Xuan. Okay, maybe this one we have a chit chat style. Seah Xuan. So yep, you can share with everybody your experience on this program. You're like 8 weeks old already on the program, right?
9 actually.
9. So maybe you can share the rest. What's your experience like?
Okay, so I think Marc did a great job of sort of explaining what the Ungoogleable challenge is. It's actually pretty much what we do from day to day, and it's something that probably most people would not really expect much from an internship. So I think for most people, traditional internships are like you come in, you sort of learn a bit about the company, and then you just sort of do like day-to-day things without much sort of variance. Whereas, like, I think right from the get-go, on the first week that I was here at Design Prodigy, I think the main thing that was stressed is that, everything works at like triple the pace. And we're not just doing like day-to-day things that are what normal people do during internships, but we're actually sort of creating new things based on our respective domains. So I think, as Marc also mentioned, is that we're all not from marketing. Sort of, we don't have marketing background, all of us. I personally come from an engineering and economics background, so this is like completely new to me. And different the rest of the interns also have different backgrounds. Like some of them are from English language, some are studying computing and psychology even. And actually, it might seem very weird for people like this to come up, or people like me, in fact, to come up to step up for a marketing internship. But I think I was surprised myself when I realized that actually the amount of insight and the amount of sort of domain specific knowledge that you can bring from your own domain into another domain, it's actually quite a lot, because like people who are in the marketing field, sometimes they can get too sort of caught up with what is the current industry standard. And I think for people like the nine of us, having the advantage of number one, not knowing really what like people in the marketing field usually do, having to research from the beginning to go deep in the first week of the internship, and to also sort of use our prior knowledge in our own domains to sort of apply it onto sort of what we are doing in the Ungoogleable challenge. So I think it's really not what someone would expect in the very beginning. It's definitely very exciting because I mean, a lot of people, you know, when the first thing they think about internships is they think, oh, monotonous. They think how to say doing the same thing over and over again. But this is really really very different. That being said, it's definitely not easy. Over the course of the past 9 weeks, I wouldn't say for myself only, but for everybody, is that we've gone through many ups and downs. Definitely, when you go deep into something for the very first time, and especially at such an accelerated rate, you're definitely going to have sort of a surge of emotions. That you're going to have times where, for example, you feel very down because you don't really know how to get out of this this hole that you're in. And after, you know, going through, you have to sort of pull yourself out. It's sort of like looking at yourself from like another third person view, and to look at it sort of like from a meta perspective, and then sort of realizing that, okay, it's just a process that you need to go through. And once you sort of consolidate everything that you know, you sort of put everything, the pieces together, and slowly you sort of walk out of I think what Mark likes to call the valley of death. And yeah, I think this is what the roller coaster really means, and it's very difficult for me to explain how I'm feeling without actually going through the feeling. So I think it's worth a shot.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe so I just want to add this because I observed from the many batches of Google Ungoogleable in challenge, because it is in a classic case is actually deemed as completely unreasonable. First, you are totally not trained. Second, you're solving like literally a world-class problem, a real problem that even professional will take some time to solve, and you're gonna solve it in weeks. and you're gonna present it to like the industry people to validate it, right? So and I do notice through the years there is this distinct phase. I call it the valley of death. It was complete demoralization. Like why am I here? Is it even real? How could it be? Like, where are we going? We're going nowhere, you know? All right, when you can go everywhere, where should we go? Now, so that's what I observed. And maybe, something could you just share with us? So that I heard that you went through as well. Maybe just give a bit of insight, because that seems to be a very critical phase. And after that, apparently, life becomes easier, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just share with everybody, maybe for your team only, what was it like? Where was the difficult moment? And in your opinion, from where you see, what do you think changed, and what's the difference?
Okay. I think, okay, first and foremost, right? If you were to ask me this question 3-4 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have an answer. But I think it's also a cause of, I think very importantly, like especially with what people do in life, I think it's very important to do reflection, and then like after reflecting, you sort of know like what process you've gone through. And I think the answer for this sort of lies within not just me, but and not just the nine of us, but I think it's also applicable to everyone in the workforce and in the creative industry these days. Is that a lot of the times, like because I think this concept has been emphasized many times, it's like we're living in a VUCA world, and there are a lot of factors going around at play. We always feel very scared to jump into something that, you know, a lot of people think that they know, but, you know, in fact, not many people actually know what they're talking about. So I mean, okay, if I were to give, for example, you hear these terms like machine learning being thrown around. People keep talking about stuff like special relativity. It's stuff like that you sort of hear from day to day. But when you actually think about it, right, do these people, like, okay, not everybody, but like, do some people actually know what they're talking about? And it's very daunting in a sense to dive into a particular expertise, because you think that people actually know like a lot about a certain thing, but when in actual fact, right, there's still a lot to sort of be extracted out. So I think relating back to what Michael said earlier, talking about sort of like the nuggets of information, things are all over the place. People sort of have a grasp about what's happening, but not many people have sort of taken this information, integrated it, and sort of simplified it such that people, like, when you actually explain to people, people can actually tell you that, yeah, I know what's going on. And I think that's where the beginning for us was, because we thought that when we first heard the term omni-channel marketing, it's something that we thought that, okay, we sort of have an understanding of, but we don't really know what's going on, and we don't know what's currently out there in the market. And then it makes you feel very anxious, because I mean, anyone who first step into his first job, or like who is going to a new area, will definitely feel scared. And I think that's why we felt similarly scared as well, because going into this new field, you really don't know what's going on, you don't know what people know, you don't know what's already been done, you don't know what potential you have to bring. And I think that's perfectly normal, because once you take the first step, it's sort of like you gotta push yourself from the back, figuratively, to push yourself from the back and to sort of get things moving. Once you take the first step, you actually start to realize that once you push for yourself, once you push for clarity, once you push for understanding what's going on, things actually become better, and sort of you recognize that this is just sort of a tempo that you need to go through, the cycle of sort of not understanding, being bold to find out what's really going on, refining your process, refining your thoughts, and then repeating the cycle over and over again. And I think after a while, once you get used to this cycle, as I think which was for our team in a sense, after a while, you sort of get into the tempo, sort of like in a way settling into the job, and then that's where you sort of feel more at ease. You don't necessarily feel comfortable, but you feel more at peace with like whatever you're doing.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so just for sharing, just connect back to what Michael shared as well. To me, so I focus on the program. So the program is about activation, and the purpose is to create a condition of jump. So maybe we connect. It's like getting a furnace to fire up. Get a furnace to fire up, right? So I did a research trying to create conditions, the conditions so that through the signals the person could fire up, and through so we also know that a lot is psychological, as you can hear. A lot of us, it's all inbuilt thinking. So slowly put a situation that can take all those away, and then you have to activate them. And because of this, it's actually very emotional. And we saw people sharing the lows and the high. They feel very happy, then become very low and very demoralized again. High and lows and high and low. We saw that until it becomes stabilized. Then they're cool, just like what you saw in Seah Shao Xuan. And that is our what we discover. And once you cross that turbulent stage, usually that's also the point when they crack the challenge. All right. So I think that's about it. I mean, since it's an unconference and we have some friends here, and we have actually a fellow polymath with us today, maybe feel free to ask us and let's interact, or maybe share your experience and your view on polymathic on VUCA. Anybody?
We have the text option too.
Yeah.
Can I go to? I can mention something about what Shao said.
Yeah.
And something that was very smart was to bring people from different domains. So we have an effect that's called the novice effect. That's when you go with new eyes, so you're not stuck into what the field does. And sometimes that's just for tradition, and it's just because it satisfies. It has worked well, but it could be much better. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Hi, Dave. Want to chip in?
Hi, thanks so much for this really fascinating session. I mean, we've been talking about polymaths actually between Marc and I for quite a long time, maybe even like more than a year. And yeah, I guess, in a way, I always feel that, in the early days of, I guess, knowledge, knowledge was always in monasteries, right? And they studied everything and they not necessarily put ourselves in silos. And yeah, nowadays, we tend to, universities are organized to faculties, everybody's very siloed. And, in the sense, like when you go to the workforce, you attach one label to yourself, right? And yet, we are in a world where, one perspective or one profession cannot solve everything. And we need to move towards multidisciplinary perspectives and teams. I mean, I guess designers, architects, I kind of naturally already fall into that, into that sort of way. But the majority of the working world and even the academic world doesn't, right? Everybody's so specialized and they're so deep into something, but they lose the perspective because, they have a different purpose, right? They need to publish within that field. So I'm just wondering, like, are polymaths doomed to like be on the sideline, to be misunderstood, and maybe what could bring about, what are some ideas that could bring about like a embracing of, I wouldn't even say polymath, right? Embracing of a multidisciplinary perspective on whatever we're looking at.
You have no sound, Marc.
Oh, okay. Maybe I take the question first from my side. I mean, Michael, feel free to add on as well. And
No, if you want.
yeah. So I just want to give the encouragement because on the ground, because of the projects I'm doing, as you know, that I've actually got attention from industry leaders already, and they're bringing more people in. Words are spreading. I also want to add that they're also coming to me with really difficult problem, really difficult commercial problems. So it's actually creating a lot of good opportunities for us. And so I think that's one. Second is I actually also have personal invitations from other industry because of the work I'm doing, like as far as like agriculture. It's like we're based in Singapore, and as someone has interesting ideas to do like agriculture of the future, and they approach me to see if you are interested. And they know we are not from the domain, but they are interested of this furnace and all our expertise to bring in to work with other specialists in agriculture to do transformation. I find it very encouraging. So I'm personally very optimistic of the future because there's lack of answers there. And I think Polymathy offers additional tool set for the world to try to solve the problem right now. And on the ground, from the request I'm getting and the interest I'm gathering, it is growing by the month. So that's from me. Michael, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's very paradigmatic. You have this economist, Joseph Schumpeter, that says that we have this paradigm, and from time to time, things start to emerge, and then you need a shift. And for that, we need entrepreneurs. So people like you who have the curiosity and the courage to do something different. And then when we start delivering results like you're doing, so we are gathering attention, and then the big ones will follow eventually. So we need these people that have this foresight to do the first step. We need these people like you, and I think that I'm optimistic too. So I think that's how it goes. So when they see it, it will become something more understood in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. His no voice.
Dave, you're on mute.
Yeah, it's mute. It's mute.
Dave, you're on mute. Dave, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm just wondering whether anyone's aware of any centers or like institutional centers or any groups of polymaths around the world that have like come together or studying this thing or like raising awareness of the identity and perspectives that polymaths bring.
I can share. I'm gonna share a group.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether anybody is actually formally like researching or studying this in a university or some sort of center of research.
We have not so many places, but we have in University of Southern Carolina. No, sorry, Southern California, a polymathic center, which is founded by a guy named Sidney Harmon. That's one thing that I know. In Texas too, there is a center, like a polymathic center. There is now in Singapore, they are trying to implement a cross-disciplinary undergraduate program. So it's scattered. I think in Michigan State, there is one initiative. There is one person, but I don't remember if it, that's Pittsburgh. He is a director of a college who is also trying to implement some polymathic things. So that's my homework too. I'm gonna put it together in the list. But we have some things incipient and scattered, but it's growing in some, at least as I know in American universities, which I have more contact, and I have a lot of news in Singapore now in some universities in Asia that are going to adopt it as well. Okay.
I have just to share. I have a friend who is also a multidisciplinary thinker, and he also equipped himself further to in the realm of system thinking. All right.
Yeah.
And right now he was. I mean, he's in his career. He travels to many fields and he's doing really well. And he started in advertising, and then he was in marketing, and he went to data, and now he's in HR. Right. So apparently, because of the lot of great demand for transformation and people's work, and I think he's in the right place. And he is hired for that because of what he can bring to the table. I'm also very encouraged by him because all of us are out there trying to feel our way. So whatever successes we have, we are just so proud of them.
I'm wondering, I've got a question. Just putting many disciplines together, does that create a polymath? Because I noticed in Singapore, that's what the universities are doing. Oh, sorry, that was me, Mona.
Yes, Mona.
All right. Can I? Or
Michael, this is your space, man.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's one thing that I think I convinced the field, because before the field was saying that polymathy was breadth and depth, and I pushed integration as a big element as much as breadth and depth, because that was the problem. You have many scattered disciplines and people defending themselves because of money, because of grants. So no, this should go to my department. So this is my department's work. We have this pettiness that I call. And even in a school, if you stop to think, you study mathematics, you study biology, you study chemistry, you study English language or Chinese, whatever. But these are not connected. These are disconnected within themselves, the disciplines, and they are disconnected from the world. So you are making a lot of calculations, but they have no meaning. And why I think what Marc is doing is polymathic, because he's bringing meaningful things that are valuable for the people, these young interns, and they are bringing disciplines together to come with a mesh to something new and important, and that has value. So that's what's lacking, the integration pillar that we don't see in universities, even though in the beginning they tried to do it, but it got lost through the years.
Yeah, I want to add on this. Okay, so that came to my side. So what happens here is this. So just now we talk about what school giftedness, right? Schoolhouse giftedness.
The schoolhouse giftedness.
When it's like just a course, most people will find the easy way out. Looks like it, smells like it, that's it. But they don't believe it. There's no complete validation. You just submit as a homework, right? So, and when you do that, certain brains don't fire up. There's this emotion, that the kind of certain seriousness, the brain are not operating at 90%. Yeah, when you're handling it like 65%, or spurts of 100%, it just does not work. You got to sustain it like 90% for a prolonged period. Day and night, you're thinking about it, day and night intense, and then the magic starts to happen. So you got to fire up the furnace in that condition. So if not, it is just, it looks like it, smells like it, but it is not it. Yeah, Shao Xuan, you all went through it.
Yeah, but that comes back to my original question. Just putting the multidisciplinary environment, does that really create polymaths? Seah Shao Xuan, what do you think? The university is doing this.
Actually,
This year, I think, right? They're letting you choose any modules that you like. Will they really create a different paradigm?
Okay, so actually this is something that's quite interesting. Okay, so maybe a bit of background for those who don't know. So I'm a student from the National University of Singapore. I entered the university in 2018, and I enrolled under this thing called the double degree program. So at this time, I think at that time it was sort of there, but not very like a big thing going around in schools. I think not many schools were offering it, and I basically enrolled under the engineering as well as economics program. So when you think about this double degree program, what you would think is that I mean, in the lens of a polymath, you would think that one would go very deep into both disciplines, and then there would be sort of an opportunity for integration. I think, excuse me, I think that at that point in time, people were still not really getting the grasp about what the whole idea of basically what polymathy is. So while you have deep expertise into each discipline, so we basically took the same exact content, the same exact modules as each major, but there was really very little opportunity, in a sense, to sort of bring both knowledge together. And I think the main chance that I'll probably have to do is basically for my final year project, where you have to sort of integrate ideas from both disciplines into a particular project. But I think if I'm not wrong, the news recently came out that the university is basically going to roll out this thing called the cross-disciplinary degree programs, or CDP for short. And I think what they're starting to realize is that, like what the double degree program can't offer, they are trying to do with the cross-disciplinary degree program. So you basically have a set number of time and space for you to go deep into each field, but what on top of that they're coming up with is basically another set of curriculum which sort of integrates both ideas and both fields of knowledge from both disciplines, that's custom made, because every bridge between two disciplines is unique. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to introduce this into, say, the curriculum, so that you don't just learn one thing in isolation and another thing in isolation, but you sort of see how the synergy between both disciplines sort of work together. And it also, like, I think because people are recognizing, they're giving more opportunity for this to happen as well.
That's nice, man. I'm very happy to hear that. Incredible. Nice.
I think there is one key thing that Shao said, that each bridge between disciplines is unique. And the thing is, you don't know beforehand which one will be useful. So it's not that polymath will always work. It will fail most of the times. But when it does work, and when it's really different, far from the typical solutions that everybody that does the same knows, then you have, when you investigate, you have polymathy. So it's not that polymathy will always work, but when you have something that really works and is really creative, when you dig, there is polymathy there. So that's the direction of the causation in my mind.
Okay, thank you. I actually think polymaths are born, I suspect. I actually don't think they can be taught. So I have my doubts about the effectiveness of the university program. Yeah. I volunteer with a group of seniors, and I have a crazy mission to teach technology to the seniors, all right? These are heartlanders. So your regular grandma, housewife kind of situation. And I've seen some get it, some don't. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Can I again? I agree in part. I think it's like what the university is doing. They are putting a new software in their minds. And when you say the polymaths are born, so people have their operational systems and they're based on some kind of basic code like C#. And some codes work really better, really good with some programs, and some codes are terrible with other programs. So research gives support to the idea that temperament or biologically based traits, which occur very early, they are very predictive of polymathy. And the traits are orientation to probabilities, plasticity, sustained attention, self-confidence, but not too much, so you can be a negligent person, and resistance to neuroticism. So you have to be able to hold your horses during the valley of death. So research is corroborating, or better, Marc and his program is corroborating the research. So it's going together. And what Mona said is true. So some people, they have all the apparatus that will facilitate. But I don't think that's gonna be not useful for the people who are not born polymaths to do such program. So I think even them will get something. Not as much as a real born polymathic talent, but I think it's going to be valuable to them as well, to some extent.
Yeah, maybe I'd like to chip in. So I'll give you a background to myself, right? My dad's like a super left brain engineer. So he's all the mathematics and linear stuff. I mean, he's very good at it. And then my mom is a literature and English teacher. And I guess when I was in school in Singapore, I mean, in a typical silo thing, are you an art student or are you a science student, right? I mean, I had an A in literature and an A in physics. I mean, I can't answer that question because this is an artificial thing that is structured, right? So, you know, I was initially a science student in lower, in secondary school or lower high school. And then in upper high school, I switched to arts, which was very traumatic because it was completely different from the sciences. And then I failed in the first year. But then I became the top student in history in the second year, right? And then when I was in university, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to a North American system because in the first 2 years, you don't have to declare a major. You can take whatever you like for 2 years. And I did every single ology, you know, anthropology, sociology stuff. I did calculus, I did economics. And I don't think I was ever born a polymath, but I was just very interested in many things. And because of my exposure and knowledge of these things, and I don't have to have like taken 10 courses in psychology, right? I just understand the psychological perspective. And then what I find now, because you know, I guess that was a tipping point for me. I mean, university now is like 25 years ago. But whenever I look at something and I don't even control my thoughts, suddenly two different things connect. And then I see connections and patterns, and I try to explain this to people, but they don't understand, right? Because only I have that sort of exposure. So unless I speak to someone who has knowledge and perspectives on these fields, you won't get it because you only know your one or two things, right? And then you always reference that as the truth, right? And like, this is strange or weird. So I guess that's the big problem because the rest of the world doesn't have the exposure. So sometimes I guess polymaths is a big heavy word because they expect you to be like Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, you don't get people like that. A few of them every 100 years, right? But the fact that you are having exposure and you can apply and connect already is very unique and in a sense potentially very valuable. And you don't have to be experts in that. The perspective itself has value, and especially as I said, you know, nowadays when you want to release I mean, it's like Singapore, right? The typical thing is like, oh, we need a technological society. Oh, we'll focus everything on engineers and computer scientists, right? But my favorite example is Mark Zuckerberg, and everybody thinks Mark Zuckerberg, yes, he invented Facebook because he was a computer scientist, not computer scientist, he was a computer undergrad student in Harvard. But if you actually read where he got his idea from Facebook, he said, I was in my psychology class and I said, like, how come all these human psychological needs, you cannot express it over internet? And then that was the idea of Facebook. And, you know, he applied, as you can see, obviously the first time it was about dating and finding cool people on campus, good looking people on campus. But very soon he added functionality because he realized from psychology that humans have a lot of different needs and, of course, trust and everything else online. So you cannot just be focusing on, you want a technological society. I mean, even the word is wrong, I mean, in a sense, right? You cannot just be giving attention and focus and on people who are computer scientists and it's all about programming. Like, no, it's about the whole thing, right? You know, so that's my I guess perspective on this, right?
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for sharing. So, in view of time, 1 hour is up. Well, it was really fun. It's more fun than I expected. Thank you for all your participation. It's one thing I know, we're all lonely, so it's really great to meet each other, right? So awesome. Okay, so maybe just like to share with everybody. So just know that this is a 3 days and night campus party. It's a virtual. It's 100% global. We have 1,800 speakers over 31 cities, right? So it is 100% to support the Doctors Without Borders. And feel free to register at reboottheworld.org. Okay, you can choose either Singapore or Australia. All right, so and then support if you can. All right, with that, I just want to say a huge thank you. Thanks for my fellow speakers, Michael, Seah Xuan, and thanks for all the wonderful guests and for your participation. We hope to have another one again, maybe. Dave, we can talk about it. We can do more stories.
Let's not use the word maybe.
No, yes!
For sure.
Okay, good. Awesome. All right, with this, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much for the give space for the next speaker. All right?
Yeah. Oh, could you sort of say, like, is this going to be, this is recorded, right? So where is it going to, how are we going to share this later on?
Yes. I will share. You just let me know. I can coordinate with you after this because I thought more people should hear this conversation. And then we go from there.
Yeah, so Campus Party has a Slack group, so we'll obviously we'll put it on we'll put this link on the Slack group. If you can, I guess you can. It's almost immediate, is it, that you can put it up?
I had to figure it out.
Okay.
It's my first recording.
Okay,
all right. Great. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.